Hi, I'm Donna Wittry.
And I'm John Wittry. Welcome back into our living room today. Let me apologize right up front for the kind of the darkness of this video. We actually have a bit of a thunderstorm rolling in right now, and so we've had a hard time with the lighting. But as I told Matt, it's all about the content and nothing about what you're seeing. So we're going to go with that principle. I also wanted to start out by saying thank you. If you have been following these videos, this would be number 7 in the series of how to have a successful and loving relationship, how to optimize a successful, loving relationship. Today, we're going to be talking about 2 aspects of that, and that's being present, how to be present in a relationship, and how to stay in the present. So just a distinction between being present and how to stay present in the relationship. You know, this concept of being present and staying in the present really goes hand in hand with the video that we did on quality time. So when you think about structuring quality time, you have to also pay attention to the quality of that quality time. So one of the experiences that Donna and I routinely have when we're working with couples is they're very proud of themselves. Oh, yes, we have a date night. We have date night, every week. And then we start kind of talking about how that date night occurs and what's happening. And, a simple question that I like to ask because I'm me is, well, do you leave your phones off? And then all kinds of stories about why they can't do that. And so we're going to talk today just about why it's so critical that you as a couple and you as an individual also really work on being present whenever you're in those in that quality time together, really being present, and then as often as possible keeping the conversation about the present, not wandering off into the past or wandering off into the future. So why don't we start with number 1?
All right, our number 1 top 10 is eliminate external distractions. So just segueing into what John was saying, that it's important if you're going to spend quality time together to really recognize that when you're together, you want to be fully present in that time that you're together. You want to be able to eliminate as many distractions as possible. Even children, you want to be able to set aside time where you're not with your children, where the children know that this is time for mom and dad's relationship, that they need time to be together. And turn off the phones, turn off the TV, don't answer any emails, that sort of stuff during that time. That time is sacred for the 2 of you.
Yeah, it's really important to think about this. So anything external to you, laptops, telephones, PDAs, all the stuff that a lot of us are very addicted to. I mean, quite frankly, I love my laptop and I love my smartphone because I feel very connected. But I have also noticed as soon as I get uncomfortable in the conversation that Donna and I are in, it's really easy to go to that device. And so sometimes it's just that I'm unconscious and all of a sudden I pick up my phone or I look at the TV. But I think more importantly is when I'm uncomfortable in whatever the conversation it is, I immediately want to go to something that's going to rescue me. And it's amazing how much more important emails are when you're uncomfortable with the conversation that you're in, or how important that phone call is when you don't really want to stay in the subject that you're talking about. So really important, manage those external distractions. Then we get into big idea number 2. So once you control or have an influence over the external distractions, then it's time to think about what are the internal distractions that keep you from being present. And one of my roles in this life is as a productivity coach. So I do a lot of work in the area of individual and team and organizational productivity. And here's an example of managing your internal distractions. And I build this into some of the work that I do is something called a mind sweep. And one of the best tools that I think this is more for me than Donna, that I've built into our relationship was before we would go out on our date night or our walks, or when I knew that we really wanted to just be in good conversation with one another and be present, I would actually sit in front of my task pad and I would empty my head into my task pad. Now I do it into Outlook. You can do it on a piece of paper, do it anywhere. But part of being present is stopping the noise that's rattling around up in your head, all the to-dos and all the don't forgets and all the things that occupy us all day long. So eliminating those internal distractions is absolutely key. I don't know if there's things that you do particularly about that. You tend to be more present in general than I do.
Yeah, but some of the other things that we try and practice are just coming to that place together. Like even taking the time, if you're driving to your workplace, you can even take the time driving home, however long that takes, just to take some deep breaths, just to unwind, just to listen to a little bit of music. Just think, start to eliminate all of the things that you've been thinking about during the day, so that when you get to the place where you're going to connect with your partner again, then you have a more relaxed state of being within yourself before you encounter your partner in your relationship.
Yeah, I think another thing that comes to my mind as we're talking about this, these videos that you've been watching us on, this is about as long as I sit still ever. So these, 30 minutes, I just don't do sitting still very well. I just like to be active. And so one of the things that I also notice, and this is especially true for me on the weekends where we tend to have more quality time or time where we can just be with each other, is if I can go out and really do a hard workout. So I'm a bicyclist, and if I can go out and do a really, really hard ride, there's something about exhausting my physical body, and if I can empty my head, those two things just seem to calm me down. We have out at the ranch, we have 2 chairs that overlook the valley that we sit in. And my favorite thing is to come home from a really long ride, Donna and I, to grab a cup of coffee and then just sit and talk. It's that time where I really am present. And I've got to believe I'm much easier to be with and talk to during that time.
Sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Number 3.
Number 3 is watch the impact your routines have on being present.
Yeah, we all develop habits, right? We develop these, sometimes we fall into these routines, and I just love giving you guys kind of some insight into how we've done 30 years of marriage. And one routine that I have a habit of is I actually like to eat dinner in front of the television. Or if I can't do that, I like to read while I'm eating dinner. So, we talk about eliminating the external distractions. Well, a book next to me is a bad external distraction, having the TV on, and without discipline, and Donna occasionally reminding me, it would be very easy to never just really be present during dinner, because I have a habit or a pattern that I can fall into of being distracted while I'm eating. And so there's all kinds of things that happen where we have these routines or habits. A lot of times we fall into unconsciously rushing off in the morning. That's another thing. So I'm an early riser. Donna's not an early riser. And so I can disappear really early in the morning because I have the habit of getting out and getting active, and I have to make sure that I'm really conscious that Donna sometimes likes me to be home when she wakes up, and not already be out knocking out the chore list. Even if it's her honey to-do list, she'd really rather me be sitting and being present with her talking.
Yeah,
So,
I stopped you this morning.
Yeah, she stopped me this morning. I've been on the road for the last 6 weeks, and so her just gently grabbing my hand and saying, I haven't seen you in a while. It would be nice to sit and talk. So just really being conscious. Think about how your routines benefit you being really present with one another, and how some of your routines may be distracting you from being present. And sorry to go on just a little bit longer about this. Some of those routines are interestingly really important. So reading thought-provoking books, going out and doing exercise, doing the honey-do list, those are all routines that I have that are really, really good, and I can justify disappearing or being distracted or being away from Donna because of the importance or the perceived importance of what I'm engaged in. But let's never forget that having an effective relationship is oftentimes the thing we say we want the most. And if we don't be really particular and carve out that time and not let our routines, no matter how powerful they are or important they are, distract from that, I think that's really key.
Mm-hmm.
Next one.
Conversation requires being present. So when we're talking about conversation, we're talking about listening from a heart level, which I think we talked about in one of our other videos just a little bit. but it's taking yourself out of that place where you want to respond to what the person is saying and stopping yourself from responding and getting to the place where you're listening with your heart and not just listening with your head. And that requires a calmness inside your spirit and a calmness inside your body so that you can really, just listen to what the person is saying without, thinking about how you're going to respond or trying to make the person wrong or trying to, make yourself right, and just being right there in that space with that person right there and hearing really what they're talking about from their heart.
Yeah, and this I don't know, maybe I've said this about all of them, but this takes a lot of practice for me. This has taken a lot of practice for me and continues to. There's a couple of rackets that I run. So I'm an I know better. So I'm a very confident guy. I have an opinion about everything and usually not afraid to give it. And I like to solve things. And so Donna will come into these conversations, and if I don't really be conscious that she doesn't want me to solve, she just wants me to understand. And I can really slow myself down and come from a place of being understanding and not being solving. Or just
ask.
Yeah, or just ask. Mm-hmm. What do you mean?
Well, there's been times when you have had to ask me, okay, are you asking for a solution? If I'm just talking and I'm just saying, I've got this thing going on at work and, there's this person that I can't get along with, or I don't know what to do about this and that and the other thing. We have learned in our relationship that if John will just stop and say, okay, are you asking me just to listen right now, or are you really wanting me to come and help you be able to solve this little issue that you're having? And so just even that little tiny question will help me a lot, because then I can just say, oh, right, I don't need you to solve this for me. I just want you to listen at this point, because maybe I can solve it just by talking
Almost
about
always.
it.
Yeah.
And, maybe get a little feedback from you along the way, but really not you jumping in to just like, okay, honey, I'll solve that for you.
Yeah, it's a really great example, and it's a perfect example of me having to be really conscious and really present about what's happening. And I can run into a conversation and forget that. The other thing that I want to point out about this being, conversation requires being present. And it's something that I hope you're observing about us doing these videos. One of the things you'll probably notice is Donna has an easier time looking at the video when I'm talking and still listening to me. I purposefully keep eye contact with her when I'm listening to her. So that's just a tool that I use, because it's really easy when I turn away and I don't have eye contact to let my mind start wandering back on the last concept she talked about, or what email just hit my inbox, or wow, look at the beautiful birds outside. And so one of the disciplines I have about being present is staying really, really focused on you and keeping eye contact while you're talking. So just some little simple tools that, we know these things are silly. Look, we know that's a really silly concept. But the reality is it's the tiny little things that you can do and make habits that make a world of difference in how your relationship goes day in and day out. Okay, so enough of that one. Oh, I got this one. Number 5. How did you work that? That's beautiful.
That's good, huh?
Being vulnerable. So, there's something, sometimes this is an opinion, so who knows, I'm sure it's not the truth, but it's just an opinion, so it doesn't matter. Sometimes people don't want to be present in a conversation because it produces vulnerability. And it's that vulnerability sometimes that people are afraid of. But one of the things that I love about being conscious, or really consciously being present in our conversations, and even with our kids, we do this exact same thing with our kids, is in many senses, if we can eliminate the external distractions and we can eliminate the internal distractions, it creates a bit of a cocoon or a blanket around that conversation. We're really isolated with one another. But, and so distractions inhibit that. But without those distractions and in that cocoon, the level of depth of our conversations can be really profound. So there's nothing keeping us from really dropping into our heart, being really present in the conversation. And in general, my experience is, to the degree that I'm willing and will let myself, I will be more vulnerable and more authentic in those conversations. Now, as a man, there are some men that really struggle with that. I don't struggle a ton with that. But as a man, I really love that. I really love learning, and Donna's done a lot to teach me this, but learning that it's okay to be vulnerable, that I don't have to be Superman, I don't have to solve everything. I can actually just say, hey, this is what's on my heart. So I love that cocoon that eliminating external and internal distractions creates, because it allows me to be more vulnerable. And I think you allow me to be vulnerable.
Well, being able to share, I mean, we've found this over the years too, is that if I can stop my internal judgment of whatever he is saying, he is much more willing to share what's on his heart. But if I all of a sudden, start getting, tense, and I'm listening to what he's saying, but you can tell that it's bothering me, it's causing me some tension, I'm getting hurt or I'm getting angry, he's going to really, tone down what he's saying and possibly not share everything that I would have wanted to hear because of my reaction. So what I've tried to practice over the years is just really managing my reaction to things so that he can share everything that's on his heart without it triggering anything within me, and just saying, just stay neutral, just listen to everything that he has to say. And then when we get to the end of it, we'll have, a conversation about how it made me feel or how it impacts us as a family or as a couple.
Yeah, it's been really great. I mean, the nice thing that I can really easily say after 30 years of marriage, that there's nothing that I can't bring into that conversation, like sex, money, anything. There's just nothing that I can't just be really honest about and say, hey, this is what's happening. And because Donna's practiced at not reacting, I know that I'm not going to get beat up and spit out. She's not going to run away and cry. That's made it very, very, those types of conversations really great.
It's, it's a practice that we've had over the years of really, really disciplining ourselves to stay present in our conversations.
Yeah.
Which leads to our next one.
Yeah, so here's where we're going to create a little bit of a shift. So remember, the title of this is Being Present and Staying in the Present. So up until now, we've been talking about being present. Just as important and just as powerful is staying in the present in these conversations. So first, I want to talk about not dwelling on the past. And I'm a big believer in the importance of words. So I want to highlight this word dwelling. I'm not saying never talk about the past. I'm not saying that. I'm saying don't dwell on it. Don't make it the topic of every conversation. And here's a simple thing that you can do tomorrow, today, and from then on to know whether you're dwelling in the past. If you use words like you always, you never, and those absolutes, when you start using absolutes in general, you're dwelling on what occurred to the past. And the problem is when you dwell on the past, you actually lock it into the present, or you bring it into the present, and it actually creates your future. So in our relationship, one of the things that we've learned how to do really successfully is not dwell on the past. We look at the past for what we can learn from it. And we look at the past in order to clean up our messes. So, here's an example. I need to clean up my mess with you. I know I've been traveling for 6 weeks. I know it's had a huge impact on you and the things here at the ranch. And my commitment is that I will be much more conscious about how I book my travel going forward. So looking at the past, learning from your mistakes, and then creating your future from that, that's a great use of looking at the past. But if you dwell on it, if every conversation is about, John, you always leave dishes around the sink and you never pick up your laundry and blah, 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 well, there's no conversation in that. There's no communication in that. There's no fun in that. Of course, I'm not going to want to have a deep, intimate conversation with you. Of course not. If that's the content of our conversation, all the things that I've done wrong in the past, and I've done a ton wrong, it's easy to tell you, I don't want to be in conversation. I would really rather talk about how we're doing right here, right now. It's just more fun. I'll step into that conversation every time. Not that I can't learn from my past, not that I don't have things to clean up. I do. But mostly I want to stay right in the present.
Yeah. And then as far as just the same idea, staying in the present, is also not to spend too much time going off into the future casting. I mean, unless you're talking about things that are, fun vacation plans or, things like that. But talking about the future can also be part of the distraction of not getting into the conversation that needs to happen in the present.
Yeah, again, dwelling in the future, and especially if dwelling in the future has you in fear. We as human beings love to make up stories. We are meaning-making machines, and we are storytelling machines. And most people don't tell very empowering stories about themselves. And they worry a lot. We worry about the future. And I will tell you that if you dwell, again, using that key word, if you dwell in the future, you've just got to know that often causes up an anxiety and a fear. And the reality is you don't know what the future holds. I mean, you can't predict it. You don't know it. You have today right now. So to the degree possible, you got to stay present, which leads us perfectly into the next one.
Yeah, and that is, that trying to stay in the present is really all we have. We just have this moment right here, and right now this is all we have, and this is being with each other in our relationship is all we have. Yeah,
you got to stay in the now as much as possible. There are no guarantees, and so we've all have stories where we've lost loved ones very unexpectedly, and I have to believe that all the advice we would get from those people that have departed is enjoy every minute, enjoy every second. So keeping the present really clean and being in that is very, very valuable. That it goes into point number 9, and this is maybe less of a how-to as it is an experience that I can almost guarantee you. If you will do the discipline of eliminating your distractions internally and eliminating your distractions externally, and if you'll really commit to practicing being present with one another, there is a lightness that will come into your relationship. There's just a lightness in your own being that you then will get to share with each other, and that lightness will keep you in light conversation, not light meaning the opposite of deep, but light meaning the opposite of dark. So we can have very light filled, let's do it that way, very light filled, deep conversations in that place of presence. And so it's an outcome. I guess it's the benefit of you being disciplined about being present and staying in the present. And that takes us into number 10, if you want to close out with number 10, and that's, what does that lightness produce?
Yeah, it produces a place where you and your partner in your marriage or in your relationship really feel like there is a definite closeness. I mean, when I see John put down his phone, and when I see him shut off his computer, and when I see him, be willing to turn away from the TV and really focus on me, I mean, that really helps me feel special too, and that really helps me feel like, oh my gosh, he's really gonna be, concentrating on me, and he's really putting himself in a place where he's gonna listen to me. So, that just, it just warms my heart when he makes an effort to do all the little things, and then I know that he really wants to be with me and really share with me.
Yeah, and conversely, so we don't make it just about the guy side of this thing, we don't have young kids anymore, but when we had young kids, it was the same was true for kids. Donna, when Donna put the kids away, and like locked it, we locked them in a room or anything, but they just weren't allowed to be in the room. But she said, you guys have to go do something. I'm going to be with Dad. Or instead of cleaning the house, constantly, letting it be however it was, and instead choosing to be with me. So it does create that closeness. It's one of the small things that we've done consistently over a long period of time that makes it so we have a great relationship. And they're all just small things. There's nothing big that we're teaching you on these videos. They're all just really small things, but we've practiced them so much. In some ways they're unconscious. In other ways we're very, very conscious to them. So as always, I have homework for you, and I even have maybe a little bit of extra credit. So as it relates to being present and staying in the present, I would like you to commit a amount of time, and I would like it to be double of whatever you think you commit right now, but at least once a week, for whatever amount of time you will commit to, I want you to practice being really present. I want you to practice eliminating all the external distractions. I want you to practice emptying your head, taking a walk or doing whatever, listening to music, whatever it will take to really get you grounded and really be present. And then I want you to go into conversation with your partner. Now, the extra credit would be to get your partner to do the exact same thing with you. So if you both intentionally turned everything off, if you both intentionally emptied your head and went and got some exercise, but then with the commitment of coming back and just really being in the present. And for that conversation, just be in the present. And a great question would be, what's happening for you right here, right now? And just start there. I have no idea what the answer will be for you. I have no idea where the conversation will go. But if you need a starter for that conversation, then do that. I will tell you that all the years we've been doing relationship coaching, we are a bit dumbfounded at how little time people spend doing just that really deep conversation, that really present conversation. And so our challenge to those couples is always, look, you've got to develop a routine around this. You've got to develop some systems to support it. And so that would be my ask of you. As always, if you want to give us any feedback on how the homework went, or if you have questions about the homework, you can email us at dnnwittry, dnnwittry @gmail.com. We'd love to answer your questions. We'd love to hear any feedback that you have. Invite you back for the 3 last videos, so we'll be getting those up there soon. Thank you again so much for being with us.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah. Have a good day.